Welcome to Scorpio Soul Time. This is my esoteric journey where I am consistently learning progress over perfection. I have found a love for learning astrology and tarot, and I'd like you to be able to use the energies of our world to better your life too. I'd like to say thank you to all of my new subscribers and all of my old and new friends, and also my new YouTube family, as I like to call it. I'm always very grateful for, and if you haven't subscribed to Scorpio Soul Time, I invite you to click the bell below and subscribe to the channel, and you'll be able to have notifications every time I load a new video. So today we are going to discuss the Minor Arcana Suit of Swords. And if you haven't seen any of my previous videos, I do invite you to look at the Major Arcana video first, because the Major Arcana deals with major themes or shifts in energy in your world, while the Minor Arcana focuses on more of day-to-day themes that are usually short-lived but are still very important. Link to the Major Arcana video, as well as I've already filmed the Minor Arcana Suit of Cups and the Minor Arcana Suit of Pentacles videos. So we're going to be focusing on the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. So let's get into today's video with the Suit of Swords. What I'll do is I will show you each card one by one, and I will point out a few things in the card, and then I'll let you know what each one means, so that as you are learning tarot, you will be able to go one by one and also be able to see the themes of each card, which will help you be able to do your own readings or just understand readings more as you watch them here on Scorpio Soul Time. The first card is the Ace of Swords. It represents success, but it also can represent a double-edged situation. It can also signify a blessing of power is on the way that can be used to achieve your goals. But how you use this power can be positive or negative. It just depends on how you choose to use it. It can also refer to mental clarity, and it can also mean that aha moment that you have in a situation. So you can see the hand of God, as I like to call it, and that is the blessing coming to you. And you can see this crown, and it has this greenery and these different kind of raindrops coming off of it. And it basically is saying, you know, here's the mental clarity, but how are you going to use it? Because every situation can have a lower vibration of energy or a higher vibration of energy. So it just depends on how you're going to use this blessing. Next is the Two of Swords. It can represent a closed heart or decisions that you need to make and you just don't know what to do. It can also signify conflict between two forces, and it can also mean barriers or two people in your life where the truth hasn't come to the surface yet and you're not quite sure which way to think or which way to decide. You can see this woman here who has a blindfold. You can see the swords and of course the moon, and she's trying to decide which decision she needs to make, or she's hoping for clarity to come in. So this card asks you to be patient, go with your intuition, and just take patience in decisions because maybe all of the information isn't clear yet. Next is the Three of Swords. It warns you that pain and suffering could be on the way in the form of defeat, separation, anxiety, or heartbreak. This can also relate to a situation at hand. You can prepare yourself in advance, and the possibility of less pain is possible when this card shows up in your reading. And you can see it's raining, and this heart is pierced with 3 swords. This is one of the few cards in the entire tarot deck that has no people in it. So the other one is the Eight of Wands, which we will get to when we move on to the Wands suit. But this has everything to do with your feelings, your mental clarity, but mental clarity, feeling like you are going to be either depressed, hurt, stressed. You didn't see it coming. A situation at hand may be stressing you out. There may be things coming up for you in your life that are stressing you out. So whatever the question at hand is when you do your tarot reading, beware of the Three of Swords. Next is the Four of Swords. This card relates to rest and taking a break from the situation at hand. Your challenges will still be there, but it's time to gather your energy and thoughts before moving forward. You can see that this man is laying down. He has one sword underneath of him and three swords pointing down. And it looks like he's in a church. There's stained glass. So he's basically taking a break from the mental energy and all of the mental anguish that he's been going through. So after you came from that Three of Swords with the heartbreak, it's now time to take a rest, recharge your batteries so you have clarity to start the fight again. Now, I don't know if I mentioned in the beginning, the suit of swords refers to air. So we already went through cups, which relates to water. We did pentacles that relate to earth. And now we are doing swords, the suit of swords that relates to air. And this suit relates to themes that are a more mental level, such as power, strength, and authority. But it can also relate to violence or suffering. So you can already see throughout the cards, many of the cards have already dealt with any kind of mental clarity, suffering, resting from a mental situation, needing to make decisions. So these are all mental type themes. So let's continue. Next is the Five of Swords. It signifies you or someone around you could have been cheated out of victory by an opponent. So a battle or loss are the key meanings of this card. This also could signify you were the one who used unethical means to get what you wanted in a battle. So you can see here, he has a little smirk on his face. He has the three swords here, and then his enemy, if you will, have been defeated and their swords are on the ground. So fives usually has to do with conflict, or something isn't going right, or you are feeling like you are at a loss, or you are feeling defeat. So this card could be you and you are the one that is the victor, or it could be vice versa and you're the one walking away feeling cheated out of something. So remember, this can be either or, but also remember that anytime you are cheating someone else, the karmic universe can always come back to you in a later time. This has to do with something with relationships, something at work with colleagues, if you're in some kind of competition where you have to, be up against somebody else. This is a card that often comes up signifying that you're trying to maybe take shortcuts, or someone else around you is trying to take shortcuts. Next is the Six of Swords. This card represents moving on from a situation or problem, or even a relationship that you need more peace in. It also signifies beginning a new journey somewhere else. And this card is similar to the Eight of Cups, if you remember, where the man is going up the mountain and he has the 8 cups behind him and he has the moon to follow. Very similar, but in the Eight of Cups, it has to do more with moving on emotionally, while this Six of Swords is more of a mental vacation and moving on to more advantageous opportunities. So it might be work, it might be a relationship, or it just might be, you're tired of focusing on one part of your life that really you're not seeing any traction on, and it's time for you to move forward in another direction. Next is the Seven of Swords. This card represents theft and dishonesty. It can refer to plans where deception was used and you or someone else got away with something. It could also signify you're going to be a victim of dishonest people or dealing. And you can see this man, they also call him the thief, where he is stealing these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 swords. And then there's these swords behind him, almost like he's slipping away in the night when people can't see him. This card definitely can be you, it can be someone else, it can be the influence of the situation that you are contemplating in your reading. So just keep this one in mind, that when this comes up, usually somewhere, some kind of desperate, dishonest means have been used. Next is the Eight of Swords. This card relates to powerlessness and restriction. Oftentimes, this card shows that you feel powerless and restricted, but most of the time, this is a self-imposed feeling and not reality. You can get out of this as quickly as you want, but you may feel like the outside world is hindering you. And remember, since the swords are all about mental clarity, thoughts, most of the time this is all in your head and this is not actually what's going on in your real world. This can be more of, what you think more in your head. You can see the Eight Swords are behind her and she is blindfolded, so she doesn't really know which way to go and she feels like she's trapped. But you can see the Kingdom back here is where she wants to get to, but she's just she's not really sure how she's going to be able to get out of this bind, if you will. Because it's more in your feelings, in your head. You're not really looking at the situation with factual insight. You're more too much in your head. So remember that when the Eight of Swords comes up in your reading. Next is the Nine of Swords. This card can represent deep emotional pain or anxiety or regret. This could be a mistake you made or a concern that you will make a wrong decision in the future. Sometimes this is called the 3 a.m. card because it's basically what keeps you up at night, what makes you concerned about anything in life that is all mental and you just wake up at night in a sweat. This is that card, and you can see the Nine of Swords here, and the person is in their bed with their head over their face, just worried. So when this card comes up in a reading, this usually means you are stressing out over something that you have no control over, or you think that you have no control over. I mean, how many of us have gone to bed exhausted because we've been worried about something, only to wake up in the middle of the night and realize you're still worrying about it, and that's why you can't rest. You just need to wait for time to go by. But remember, the Nine also is getting towards the end of the suit, so that usually means endings are occurring. So maybe you just need to wait it out so that the endings occur, and then it's time for a new cycle, and maybe you'll have clarity soon. Next is the Ten of Swords. This card represents endings. Even though the grim swords in the back of this person looks like death, it really more relates to the endings of a situation that has gone on far too long. This could be friendships, relationships, it could be to a group of people, or you've just come to the ending of a vicious cycle in your head about a situation, and it's time to start fresh in a new direction. So after you went through the anxiety of the Nine of Swords and waking up and stressing over it, maybe now once you get this card, this is signifying, you know what, you're done. It's the end. You don't need to worry about it anymore. You are mentally finished and you are ready for new beginnings. So anytime you get a 10 in the Minor Arcana suits, it means the end, and that you are getting ready to start a fresh cycle soon, so you won't even need to worry about all of these swords in your back any longer. Next is the Page of Swords. This card represents young energy of intelligence and contracts. It quite possibly could mean useful information might be on its way to you. Possibly someone with a quick fire brain may use their perception and intellect around you. It may mean that you can improve your skills by being perceptive. Pages are usually young energy, so they're usually full of vibrance, full of energy. Pages usually bring messages, so this could mean important information is coming to you about a situation. It could mean that you are feeling really good about the information you've learned about a topic or about a situation that you're involved in. The Knight of Swords. The thing about the Knight of Swords that I always find interesting is that you can see he is raring to go on this horse. He is like in full armor. His cape is blowing behind him. He is like charged. He is just like ready to go. So the thing about the Knight of Swords is he's usually very impatient. Think of him as that, you know, teenager, young adult who's just raring to go, doesn't take the time to, you know, look through anything. He is, you know, he could be someone around you who is hot-headed, unpredictable, and could be too headstrong. Think before you act when this card comes up, and be confident in your decisions. You know, if you have just been, you know, tasked with, you know, finding a solution to something, and, you know, you just fire off the first thing that comes in your head, you know, maybe that's not the best, you know, route to take. The Knight of Swords is signifying haste and, you know, just running into something without really thinking it through. Next is the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords could represent you or someone in your life with good mental clarity, perception, and intuition. The overlying theme is a person, usually a woman or woman-like figure, who has a trusting and clear mind and can make good decisions. She also represents an authoritative woman who usually has the last word. Whatever she rules is the way it will be. And you can see this queen sitting here up top of her throne. She has the sword in her hand, and this hand is basically beckoning like, okay, what do you need? Let me make the decision. Let's get going. So what I like about the Queen of Swords is that she's very decisive, but she has the wisdom, the intuition to really know how to go forward. So if you get the Queen of Swords in your reading, it usually means that someone around you or you have all the facts to make a good decision. You feel really good about the decision, or at least you feel good about all the information coming in, or you feel like it will be coming to you. And lastly, in the Suit of Swords is the King of Swords. This card relates to a man that is ambitious, ready to take charge and make decisions for the betterment of the people he rules over. This could also signify a strong-willed man or someone who has more male energy. This card can also signify a well-educated professional who makes decisions while abiding by the rules, such as a manager, a boss, a judge, a teacher, the military, any type of force that is around you that has that authority. And you can see his sword. He's sitting in his throne, but he basically has the power to say what goes, what doesn't go, and everybody listens to the king, right? Who's making the rules. This means that in a reading, the topic at hand, you feel very confident about, you know, your decisions, or you at least feel like whoever is in charge is going to make the right decisions, and you feel confident in their beliefs and in the rules that they set forth. Okay, so that is the Suit of Swords. So you can see that most of the swords, what I like is this is the suit that has to do with your mental energy, is what I like to think of it. So whether it's clarity, whether it's you feeling like you're confused, or you just don't have all the right information to go forward with a decision. I think swords are always interesting because air is one of those elements that we all have, but we all don't know how to use it well. And some of us get so trapped up in our own mind that we don't really see the real picture. Facing dilemmas, if you are really like torn between decision making or some kind of event comes up in your life, remember the Suit of Swords is really helpful to help you gain a little more clarity on where you need to be putting your focus. So that's the end of the Suit of Swords in the Minor Arcana. I invite you to please look at the Major Arcana video, as well as the Pentacles video, as well as the Cups video. And so the only last suit we have will be the Suit of Wands, which will probably be out sometime next week. If you're looking at this far into the future, then all of the videos will definitely be linked in the description box below. And if you haven't subscribed, I would love if you would. And thank you for your time. Have a great day. Bye.